Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, Greg Miller joins us talking about Kind of Funny. We'll talk about his video game love. We'll talk about Superman and review that. And, of course, we'll talk about movies in general. We'll have Joey V, my executive producer, will give his review. BK from the Air calling in from Cartersville, Georgia. Plus, your calls and texts. All that and more. Stand by.
TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors, 4 Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And for those of you driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you out there enjoying this rather warm Sunday afternoon or evening as it is now. For those of you who are streaming us on YouTube and Facebook, hello to all of you. We appreciate you watching tonight. And if you are listening to us after the fact in the podcast form on whatever platform you get your podcast, we certainly appreciate you finding us there, subscribing and listening each and every week. It warms the cockles of my heart, which I didn't know it was by the left ventricle, come to find out. Who knew? My guest tonight is, I'm so excited to be able to talk to Greg Miller, IGN, now Kind of Funny, and he's just one of the just top-notch people out there doing the kind of thing that I can only hope to do one day. Greg, thanks very much for your time.
Well, thank you, James, for having me. But of course, you leave off the most important thing for this St. Louis radio show, right? Mizzou's own Greg Miller.
Exactly.
Okay? Mizzou's own.
Columbia School of Journalism from University of Missouri, MIZ.
ZOU.
And I realized it, but I kind of forgot because, so for those of you listening, Greg joined me on the Justice League podcast that we do, Justice League Revisited with Susan Eisenberg, and we got to talking. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right across the river in Illinois. And then you're from Mizzou. You went to, so very cool that you're what I could be if I really had applied myself and not be lazy. So
You seem like you did just fine for yourself.
Well, it did. That's kind of you to say. But it's so exciting to have you on because I know you do such great work and all your videos on YouTube and the reviews you leave and social media, you're just killing it. I wanted to ask you, because talking about Superman, you voiced several characters in different adaptations of video games and things like that. And I remember you telling me you were smoking a cigarette and you said David Dasmalchian is Polka Dot Man. I did that way better. So I'm just curious. Was that
much what I said? That's exactly what I said.
But that's so cool. You have to voice these characters, and then you see them being brought to life thanks to James Gunn, Polka Dot Man, for example. But I'm very curious to get when you look at the DC comic landscape of video games, what's on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh my God! I mean, it's a sad state of affairs out there for DC Comics video games in the current form, of course. I mean, for a Mount Rushmore, what you immediately jump to Batman: Arkham Asylum. I wouldn't stand in your way if you said Arkham City, if you said Arkham Knight, if you wanted to put it different up there. For me, it'll always be Arkham Asylum because, oh my God, who knew it would be that good, right?
Right.
I would toss Injustice up there, of course, not only a great Mortal Kombat clone for all intents and purposes, but then such a great story, such a great take on the DC universe. I think you look at Tom Taylor and what he did writing that comic, bringing on a whole different universe of what DC could be. That was amazing. You see him really make his name for himself there and then get to go do all the amazing things he's done since then. Beyond that, I have to be selfish and put Death and Return to Superman on there. A beat 'em up back from the SNES Genesis days, but a game that meant a lot to me, right? That was like, I'm living the comic books in my favorite format of media. I'm having a great time out there. And then just for the lulz, and of course, so we never forget, I put Superman 64 on there.
Okay.
Hands down the worst game of all time. But it needs to be remembered. This is how bad it can get. So no matter what we get from here, I can always go, at least it's not Superman 64.
Yeah. Well, I'm older than you. And I remember one of my favorite games I used to play at the arcade. I was in awe. There's a giant Superman stand-up arcade game. And it was two players, so you could play as Superman Blue or Superman Red, which at the time was like, holy crap, they really dug back into the 60s for this. And then to see it happen again when he got his electric powers in the comic books, I was like, oh! I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, I remember that game well. Enchanted Castle, Lombard, Illinois. I was playing that every birthday party I had the chance to.
Well, you're one of the few people who remember, because I'll talk about it and people are like, are you drunk? I'm like, that's beside the point.
My friend Eric Castro, who's a world-famous bartender, is now obsessed with retrofitting SNESs and CRTs and arcade cabinets. And he was pushing so hard for me to buy the Superman cabinet, to have him refurbish it and bring it to Kind of Funny's office in San Francisco. I was like, no, my partners will kill me if I bring any more crap into the studio, so no.
So, we talked about Mizzou journalism. You went worked for IGN. You got, you were doing your own your own column at the paper there. Got on with IGN. Is the trajectory you took with your career kind of what you wanted, what you thought you were going to do when you kind of went down that route?
No and yes. The story goes, and this ties in, I swear. In the 4th grade, I decided I knew what I wanted to do with my life, and it was write about video games. And I knew that because I had an issue of Game Pro, and on the cover was Death and Return of Superman, and on the inside was Maximum Carnage. And I realized after a month of reading it cover to cover, every night I'd come home and read it, it dawned on me that adults got paid to write the words. And I walked into the kitchen. I said, Mom and Dad, I know what I want to do with my life. My mom was cooking dinner. She said, what? And I said, I want to write about video games. And to my absolute blessing and pleasure and love, and thank goodness my parents are my parents, they said, okay, journalism would be that route. And so we went off that way, where I did all the high school papers, went to Mizzou to get a journalism degree, and my plan was to come back and write for EGM, which was Electronic Gaming Monthly. It was up in the burbs of Chicago. And, I think my sophomore year they announced they were moving to San Francisco because, as they put it, the whole industry was there. And I remember going, oh, okay, I'll end up in San Francisco one day. And so I got that degree, applied at all my dream places. Nobody would touch me with a 10-foot pole. Went to work for the Columbia Daily Tribune. And after a year there, I convinced them to give me a column about video games and a blog about video games. And I did that for 6 months before I was able to get IGN's attention and get contacted, interviewed, and hired within 24 hours. So overnight, my life changed. My dreams came true. And 2 weeks later, I moved to San Francisco. And so, yes, I expected the trajectory to be me doing video games and nerdy things the rest of my life, but I definitely expected it to be me writing and reviewing and putting up a byline everywhere. And, I got to IGN just as this little thing called podcasting was starting to take root. Right. And just as, hey, we should put editors on camera to talk about things took root. And so quietly and without any plan, I kind of became a face of the website in terms of like people knew my voice and they knew my opinions, and it no longer was IGN gave the game a 7 out of 10. Greg Miller gave it a 7 out of 10. And then that escalated to me getting my own talk show. That escalated to me learning about YouTube. And that escalated to me and 3 of my friends doing my YouTube channel and then going, but what if we did this full time? What if we did it all by ourselves?
Yeah, which is very impressive because, I mean, how many people have left their jobs to, I'm going to be a YouTube sensation. But I think the fact that at least your parents had the foresight to say it has to be a real career. So the journalism thing really is what paid off, which I think is great.
I can only imagine if I walked into the kitchen and this day and age was like, I want to be a YouTube celebrity. My parents would have said, go back to the books. Go learn. You're not getting out of algebra. Go learn about algebra.
I think I read a startling statistic, and I'm probably going to get the percentage wrong because, as you know, 86% of statistics are made up on the spot. But it's like 64% of Gen Z and Gen Alpha want to be influencers. That's what they want to do with their life. I'm like, that's kind of horrifying that we're in this culture where they think that's a viable stream, as it were.
Yeah, it's the new rock star, right? I want to go be, what it was, I assume, from my parents growing up, of they want to go be the Beatles, they want to go be the Doors, they want to go be the Grateful Dead, right? Like that. You don't understand behind that how much work it was to get there, or in some of the cases of some of the influencers out there, how it is a flash in the pan, lightning in the moment. Like, you're going to have that moment. It may be 3 years long, but what comes after that? What do you do with it?
Right.
So I've always been incredibly lucky and blessed to have the journalism background, to have worked at IGN, because even, branching off into our own, if people don't know, IGN's the world's biggest video game site. Now it's probably the world's biggest entertainment site in terms of everything they do to this day and age. I've been gone for 10 years now doing Kind of Funny, but having that not only journalism background, newspaper background, IGN background, and then when we went off and started our own thing, it wasn't like we're going to go and make, vlogs about this or that, or, the horrible influencer stuff you probably see and hate. It was more that, no, we're going to go review video games the way we did, but do it through our lens and with our audience and our group and stuff like that. So we've been always more of a business, and we have such a business background and acumen to it that it really pairs nicely with the shenanigans we get up to.
And there have been sites that kind of have come and gone and everything like that, too. And it's got to be, obviously, with what you've done, both with IGN and now Kind of Funny, you kind of see what works and what doesn't. Is there something that you see trending, like if someone tries to launch a new one, or even if they want to kind of rebrand an old one, like we had, I think, I can't remember the name of the one right off, but they had that big blow up beginning of 2022, I think, and they kind of quickly dipped back down. Olivia Munn was associated with it.
G4.
G4 kind of had a resurgence and then dropped right back off the planet. Do you see stuff like that, and does it ever make you think, man, I'm glad we know what we're doing?
Well, it makes me go, I'm glad we know what we are. I would never say Kind of Funny knows what they're doing, but we're lucky enough to have a really dedicated audience we call the Kind of Funny best friends that have been there with us since ground zero, right? When we started this whole thing, where we were literally starting from scratch with, leaving the world's biggest website, going from this, you have all these different levers to pull, all this different access, to literally working out of the spare bedroom of the house me and my roommate were sharing. They've been there the entire ride. So a decade later, like, we've just been able to, be that reed in the wind, right? Where we gotta read what's happening. We have to understand what the audience wants, but we have to also make it our vision and make the choices we're making for them. The biggest thing in my world is authenticity. Anyone can go anywhere, especially right now, to hear someone talk about Superman, to hear them talk about the next big video game, to hear what happened at Summer Game Fest, or so on and so forth, or react to whatever's happening in the video game industry. We've been doing it, as a company of Kind of Funny for 10 years. I've been doing it for 18 years. And the reason people have stuck with me that whole time is that they know, whether they agree with me, disagree with me, think I'm a complete dork, that I'm being authentic, that I'm never just talking to talk, right? They understand that if I'm saying something, I believe it. I'm always open to change my opinion in my mind and so on and so forth. But that the reason we call our audience best friends is that I always say, even when I was at IGN writing reviews, I was writing the review as if I was talking to my best friend in the basement because in high school, that's what it would always be. My best friend, Poe, would come over to our house in the burbs of Chicago. He'd see me playing something new. He'd say, "What is this game?" And I'd pause it and go on a 30-minute diatribe explaining what it is, why I like it, why I don't like it, So that's been the core to my career the entire way. And that has, luckily brought people in to be a part of it.
Yeah. Looking at the chats, Shannon. Hello, Shannon, listening here in St. Louis. We have Chance Bartels listening from Atlanta as well. Hello, Chance. Shannon is also a Mizzou grad, so how about that? Small world.
Yeah.
And we've got Scott Swearingen from the Mostly Superheroes podcast. Says, "Hey, Greggy." And if any of you want to call in and text, I'm trying to watch all the things. We do have someone from the 573 area code, maybe this is another Columbia person, says
Hopefully.
Superman 2025. Oh, this is Logan Janis, also from Mostly Superheroes. Superman 2025 is perfect, just perfect. The most aspirational film of the decade. An inspirational story about humanity and what it means to be unapologetically good. An epic reminder of the choices that define us. Thank you, James Gunn. Wow, Logan, that's very high praise. I know we talked a little bit before we went on air. I felt it was a bit more of a mixed bag.
Boo! Boo this man every
I know.
Boo! Tomato.
But it seems like I must be in the minority because I know my friend Dan Reba, who worked on Superman Adventures and worked on Batman Adventures. Dan Reba said, this was really good. I enjoyed the film, and I kind of felt bad. I'm like, wow, if Dan Reba liked it, what did I overlook?
Why? What's wrong with me?
But you're our guest. Let's start with you. What you thought of the movie, what your big takeaways were, and what you liked most.
So, yeah. in short, I mean, in the colloquialism we're passing in the street, what did I think? I loved it. I've seen it now 4 times in theaters.
Wow.
I saw it 4 times in 5 days. I'm the kind of psychopath who this is my moment. All right, I have been a Superman fan this entire way, and it has been an uphill battle. So if I got a little bit of a win, I'm going to take advantage of it. We do, of course, Kind of Funny in Review over on our both youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, but podcast services around the globe where we take franchises or characters and watch all the movies, rank and review them, yada, yada, yada. Over there, when we did Superman 2025 in review, I said that, I'm an 8 out of 10 probably, maybe an 8.5 on a given day, but 8 out of 10. On our scale, that means this is a great movie. Mm-hmm. I think there's plenty of 10 out of 10 doesn't mean perfect, but there's things I would tweak, things I would change, narratives, this, that, and the other that I don't necessarily think, the whole metamorpho thing. That's where I'm like, maybe we got too many people in this movie.
Exactly.
Maybe we got too many people in this picture for as fast as everything happened. And I'm not going to spoil anything. Unless you tell me to, James.
You can spoil it if you want. I just let everyone know who's listening. Mild spoilers. We'll put it like that.
Yeah. So, I don't even have something to go into off the top of my head, but if we get going, if we get cooking, I think it is a great motion picture. I think it is a great start, but most importantly, I think it's a great modernization of Superman. Mm-hmm. I think that is what I personally have been left out in the woods forever on. As someone, I'm a child of 83, right? So you figure by the time I'm really of age, Superman 4 is wrapped up. What I mean? I'm sitting there waiting for another Superman movie. And while I'm waiting, I'm, of course, being raised on post-crisis Superman. I'm being raised on an engagement and a death and a wedding and then, way later, a child, right? And I love that Clark. I love that Superman. And so to see movies, whether it be Superman Returns, whether it be Man of Steel, whether it be Batman versus Superman, and this isn't even throwing shade at Snyder, I'm talking specifically about what I want out of a thing, to see so many interpretations, in my opinion, get it wrong.
Yeah.
That, I've seen so many people talk about Kill Bill Volume 2 and be like, Bill's monologue about, that Superman, Clark Kent's the mask and Superman's the alien person. I'm like, no, that's not it at all.
I buy it for Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I'm like, this is the sacred text. Watch the series. He's Clark Kent. He was raised by the Kents. Yes, his Kryptonian DNA matters, of course, and his lineage and heritage and all that jazz. But that doesn't define him, right? That's not, he is human, even though he is not. And so to have that speech at the end of this movie, to have that scene at the end of the movie of do you want to see the footage of your parents? It was people speaking. James Gunn is writing this movie for me, and to see Clark/Superman throughout the movie just be Clark. He is just Clark, right? He doesn't have to do the complete doofus. I'm dropping my stuff and I'm acting like and again, as much as I love Christopher Reeve, right? He doesn't have to do the I'm a bumbling clown, I'm leading a miserable existence where I have to act like this buffoon just to save people's lives. It's that makes this movie so special to me, the fact that they got that right. But what about you, James? I'm interested for you, what's the mixed bag that stands out?
Like I said, because everyone I talked to so many friends today and over the weekend who just, oh my gosh, you didn't like it? And I said, please don't misunderstand me. Just because I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars does not mean I thought it was a bad movie. I enjoyed the movie. I would go see it again because I think there was a lot to enjoy. But I think I either went in with my expectations too high and I was let down, possibly because I don't know if you remember Mystery Men. I went into that not knowing anything about it, and I loved the movie. The critics hated it. They said this was crap. I'm like, it was fun. I didn't expect it, and I think your expectations when you go into a movie can affect your viewing.
100%.
So I think my expectations were too high for one thing, because I'm a James Gunn fan. If he's even just writing the movie, the Belko Experiment. Brilliant film. If he's obviously writing and directing like Guardians, I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. Most people did, but this was just. I guess what I liked. We'll start with the positives. Rachel Brosnahan, best Lois Lane since Margot Kidder. I mean, my gosh,
fantastic.
I wish I would have seen more Perry White. I feel we got more Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White in the Snyder movies. Perry didn't have much to do, which is kind of disappointing because I love, and now the actor's name has escaped me, but I loved him in Jack Ryan with John Krasinski. He was the bridge. Wendell Pierce. Wendell Pierce. Yes. Thank you, Joey V. Also just whispered it across the board. And I thought, I've said this so many times. We've had J.M. DeMatteis on the show several times. I got to interview Keith Giffen before he passed away. That's my Justice League. Growing up, that's what I was reading. I was taking those comics to school and getting yelled at by my, trigonometry teacher. What are you reading a comic book in math class for? Because trigonometry is boring, kids. But that
take it from your pals. Leave it alone.
Exactly. I grew up with Guy Gardner. He was my Green Lantern. Hal was kind of fading out by that point. It was mostly Guy in the comic books. Until
one punch.
I mean, and that whole arc, that Nathan Fillion was Guy Gardner. That was
crushed it.
And I keep seeing people who didn't, the Green Lantern was stupid. They didn't read it. And it's the same criticism, I think, from people who did not like She-Hulk. Then you didn't read the John Byrne run of She-Hulk, because that's what we got in that series. So I thought
that's what's been interesting too, as an aside of the people I've seen who are so anxious to take down the interpretation of Supergirl here. And I'm like, did you read Woman of Tomorrow? Like, we're doing it. This is very specifically setting up the movie that's based on this book that you should. Right. You don't have to know, but if you don't know the source material, why are you mad?
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm like, excited. Obviously, there's so much content. I'm sure I missed a Superman story here or there.
Of course.
And one of the things I did not like was, and again, this is mildly spoilerish for people who haven't seen it. You might just want to, do earmuffs right now. I didn't like what they did with Jor-El and Laura. That came out of left field, unless that's specific to some story that I didn't read. I didn't.
It's happened a couple of times, you know what I mean, where they tweak it and do that. Smallville was very much like that.
Yeah, but even in Smallville, I don't remember him saying he sent them there to conquer the world or to rule. It was kind of, but and the other thing, going the other direction, I wasn't a fan of this interpretation of Jonathan and Martha Kent. As I know, my comic book supplier Larry Quiggin said, when you go from Glenn Ford in the original one, everything's gonna be kind of a letdown from there. But we had Kevin Costner, obviously. We've had great people play the role. This almost seemed like, and this is nothing against the actors, it's the way they were written and the word. It was like they got extras from the set of Hee Haw to play his parents. And I just didn't like that interpretation. The Lois Lane brings him and they're like, is our bar going to be okay? I'm like, James Gunn, you're from St. Louis. People in the Midwest don't talk like that.
Well, this is his whole thing. I've seen this clip going around. I have not verified it and I don't know the person. But it's the fact that on the Howard Stern show, there's a reoccurring guy who, and this is, I've listened to the voicemails in the clip I saw, but it was that James Gunn wanted accurate Kansan accents, and so this guy's parents are still there, so he had them tell stories on voicemail to James Gunn. And so I've heard the, hey, James, this is whoever, blah, blah, blah. And so, that's what he's basing it on. And I'm 100% with you. I found that first scene of them so jarring and off-putting. Where all right, Clark, congratulations on that first front page. And my initial thing, I'm like, I understand that parents don't understand technology. They clearly own the iPhone. Right. They to some degree should understand speakerphone. I said this on an interview. Everybody's like, no, my parents don't get it. So I'm like, whatever. But secondly, if we're going to go that hard with the accent, theoretically, shouldn't Clark have at least some accent?
Yes.
That's the thing where I was just like, that I don't love. That's not a fun mashup. That said, once we come in and land back in Smallville and go inside the house, and is our boy going to be okay? Like that, my 3-year-old is being put to bed right now by my amazing wife. Like when he asked that and then put his hand on Clark, I started crying. And then the speech, and then the footage, my introduction where I was like, I don't know if I like this, but by the end I was all in.
No, and again, it was nothing against the actors. It just, like you said, it was jarring. I think it's the best way to put it, because I went to the screening with a friend and we both looked at each other, because we didn't even get that from John Schneider and Ned O'Toole. We didn't even get that from them in Smallville. It was, like I said, this is the first time we've gotten that, and it was kind of like,
To the conversation I'm having with myself about understanding the speakerphone. Do you remember there's that great scene in Lois and Clark where the first time Lois ever came to Smallville, she talks down to Ma and she's like, do you have a box, or do you know in town, is there a box where I could put a piece of paper through? And Martha looks at her and goes, a fax machine? And she takes the cover off there. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're not the bumpkins we think they are.
Right. Yeah. So, and again, to your point too, the thing that drove me, in name and powers only was that Metamorpho. That did not strike me as Rex. And we even got, there was because Joey V pointed out, because he was going through all the little notifications that he got with all the names for industries, the names of street signs. There was Stag Industries was on there.
Oh, yeah?
So we know Simon Stagg's in this, but that didn't seem like Rex from the comic books. He was a completely different.
When you go back, like, over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and in review in the podcast feeds, like every time they dropped a trailer, I was taking 2.5 minutes and turning it into an hour and 15 minute wild speculation frame by frame. And so when the first one is, Superman walking in and standing in the Stag Industries lobby, looking at the sign, I'm like freeze framing it. I'm like, this makes sense for why Metamorpho's in this picture. He's there, and I'm like explaining to my audience and my co-host, like, all right, so you see, Stag's got a daughter, and she's in love with Metamorpho, so and I'm like, this is how they're gonna put it all together. And then instead, it's just Superman goes in the cell. There's Metamorpho. Don't talk to me. Right. Then Metamorpho sees that Lex is a bad guy, starts crying. I'll work with you. I was like, oh man, like I have to imagine something got left on the cutting room floor here of like an establishment of who this all was.
I'm wondering, because like I said, the personality with him kind of like sobbing, because Rex was kind of like, I remember in the Justice League when he shows up in the Justice League animated series with Jon Stewart, he's always kind of that gruff demeanor, the kind of a little bit of a badass. Even in Justice League Europe, the comic books, he kicks the crap out of Guy Gardner just by turning himself gold and just beating Guy Gardner. It seemed like a vast departure from the character, to your point. And that's one of the things, my initial thing when they were dropping all of the trailers and all the who's in it, I felt that was a very overstuffed cast for a Superman movie, which, come to find out, I don't think we got enough, as I said, Perry White. I would have liked more Cat Grant. We didn't get any development really for Hawk Girl, which was a shame. And was it just me, or did she seem like she was screaming the entire time she was flying, like she was
screaming every time
X-Men.
she flied, or flew?
It was a little off-putting too. So those are my criticisms. Overall, like I said, it was good. I think I didn't like the fact that Superman took great pains to save the giant kaiju, but then when all of Lex Luthor's Raptors show up, he's cutting them down with his heat vision. There's nerve damage. There's a guy who's not going to walk again, which was kind of a disparity too. So those are my little quibbles overall.
It's understandable. I'm with you. I think it's, your mileage will vary on so many of the complaints, which I think are justified, right? Where it's like, I think, I love Isabella Merced from Last of Us, right? Like, I thought she was so good in season 2, and I was so stoked to see it. And so, to get all of 7 lines of dialogue here, maybe a little bit more. And then I thought, like, such an off-putting version of her as well, Hawk Girl, of like, Lois is begging for help, and Guy Gardner, I expect to ignore her, sure. But like, Isabella just ends the conversation and like lays down on the couch to read the Daily Planet. I'm like, that's a weird reaction to someone saying any of these things to you, or like how you'd end this whatever. But it's like, I think for me, it was like, hey, here they are. She's screaming every time she attacks. And that got a laugh in every theater I was in. So I'm like, I hope that's being played for a laugh of like, that's how it's got to. But it was like, they tossed him in. They did what they needed to do. And it was more, if anything, I thought the ending was weird again, spoilers, they all see what's happening and they see the world calling for Superman, and then they answer the call. But then Clark says to Lex, I called my friends. It's like, well, did you call your are you actually aware they're going to go do this? But then was that enough to get them motivated to go out there and do the thing they said they didn't want?
Right.
But again, at that point, you have to check out and be like, it's a comic book, which is like always such an out, I know. But I feel like this is like the most comic book movie.
Oh, it definitely was.
Ever, right? Where it's like, I remember as a Superman fan, as a James Gunn fan, when everything started lining up, I'm like, yes. And then it was like, James Gunn's like, Krypto's in this movie. And I'm like, oh no, like, how are we going to make a superpowered dog make sense in a world, right? And they did it. They went in and like, for 300 years, there's been superheroes. Nobody's going to be worried about this dog. I was like, all right.
I did enjoy Krypto. And I think Nicholas Hoult, Michael Rosenbaum's still my favorite live action Lex, but Nicholas Hoult I thought he was better than Hackman, no offense to the great Gene Hackman.
Of course.
Kevin Spacey, who did his best Gene Hackman impression in his movie. And I did not like, Jesse Eisenberg was like, what happened if Frank Gorshin's Riddler and Heath Ledger's Joker had a baby? That's the version of Lex we got for that. So Nicholas Hoult, my second favorite live action Lex, but I wanted that Clancy Brown Superman animated series Lex. Now that's what I was hoping we were going to get. It just missed that mark slightly for me on Lex.
See, I think Nicholas Hoult was like a standout of the film for me, where it was like, every time he starts monologuing, I'm like, yes, go. Because he was so pulled from the comic pages. Yeah, not the Clancy Brown gravitas of it all, you know what I mean? But as a, he's not Superman, he's not a man. It's all this, like, I thought he was delivering so well on that.
Yeah.
And I find myself in the same area you are, where it's like Rosenbaum defined the character as a Smallville fan. But I think for me, and this is a weird one, I guess, where it's like I can justify it in my head that I think Nicholas Hoult is the best live action Lex we've gotten, whereas Michael's the best build up to that, if that makes sense.
That
right?
does.
Because you're kind of cheating because, of course, Smallville's whole thing is like you see Lex slipping. He's trying to be a good person, but Lionel keeps pooping on him. He gets to see how great the Kents are. Clark's lying to him and he knows it. So you see him go down that dark well. So like by the end, when he's wearing the bald cap, to just come back and lose his memory. End of Smallville, goddamn. You're like, whatever. But it's like, this is full-blown Lex, right?
Yeah.
Just the money and the power, and he's got an answer to everything. And he's just, I loved it.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm always ignoring the chats. I'm so sorry. Everyone did boo me, Greg, when you said boo this man. So everyone did. Dan Reba, he is listening. Dan said, I was surprised by your reaction. Dan loved it. He loved Guy. Mr. Terrific also. My gosh, that was great.
Oh, yeah.
Super, because that character is right off that JSA cover that Alex Ross gorgeously did. I mean, he was fantastically done. Let's see, make sure. Patrick Stewart McCullough says, love Greg and kind of funny.
Thank you.
Dan Reba says he does agree with us about Ma and Pa, but he came around. Sarah and Eben Kent from the George Reeves show were practically Ma and Pa Kettle. Okay, so I don't recall that per se, their interpretation back in the George Reeves days, so I apologize.
How dare you? Fake fan.
And Dan Reba, because I trust Dan Reba implicitly, because my gosh, look at the DC projects he's worked on. He says Metamorpho did go through depression like Ben Grimm. He wasn't crazy about being Metamorpho, which I can understand. That makes sense. Mostly Superheroes podcast says, not a fanboy. I was harsh on the film my first time. Second viewing confirmed that the movie is excellent. If you're complaining, I think you might enjoy complaining. Well, I do enjoy complaining. Thank you, actually, Mostly Superheroes.
I would be interested for you to go see it a second time, because that was me too, where first screener, it's the press screener. I know everyone's going to want an opinion from me. So I'm like, I'm trying to memorize it because we recap on in review. So I'm looking in. It's my expectations. It's this, that, the other. The second night I went, literally the Amazon the screener thing on Tuesday, and I was 2 martinis in. I went in by myself and I had a great time.
Maybe I just need to have a drink beforehand. Maybe that would help too.
Loosen up.
Joe Sturdy says Crypto was better comedy relief than Richard Pryor.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I do enjoy Superman 3 unironically. I just thought it was great, and I really thought that we were going to get Brainiac at the end of that movie, but that's okay. So yeah, I'm caught up on the chats. I'm way overdue for a break though, so let me take a quick commercial break. You're okay to stick with me? You said yes?
100%. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right, we're going to come right back. We're going to take this very brief commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk more Superman. We'll get into superhero movies in general. We'll get Joey V's thoughts. And I believe BK was supposed to call in as well. So we'll get his thoughts. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Baby strawberry shortcake and baby orange blossom and baby angel cake, each sold separately.
Robots, and you control their every move. Behold, 5-4, Copter, Turbo, and Sidekill. The Gobot invasion has begun. Gobot from Tonka.
Stomper SSE Supercycles. Cycles with the speed you power with a quick pull of the ripcord. You can race them with a friend. Or you can set up your own action stunt course, indoors or out. The Stomper SSE Supercycles are cycles with speed. Stomper SSE Supercycles, available in 6 models, each sold separately from Shopper.
Daddy, look who's dressed for a party.
A strawberry shortcake party is quite grand. All her new friends dress their best are on hand.
Plum pudding, how pretty. Thank you. Meet my friend Peach Flush. Welcome. Cherry color, you're all dressed up. says my friend Gooseberry.
Strawberry shortcake, you're a real party pleaser.
Thank you, Katie. It's because my party guests are easy to please.
New party pleasers.
0266 or ginghamsrestaurant.com.
Hi, this is George Newbern, the voice of Superman. You are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Geek to Me Radio, heard here every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm your host, James Enstall, the voice of George Newbern as Superman, bringing us back from Justice League. Probably, I would say, I was going to say one of the best, but it may be the best superhero animated series ever. See, then I think about Batman Adventures. One of the best. I'll leave it at that. Speaking of Superman and Batman and all these comic book things, if you want to get your hands on some of these stories, you're like, boy, who's this Guy Gardner guy? Whoa, Mr. Terrific, where'd he come from? May I recommend Bugs Comics and Games? They're on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri. Easily accessible from either Highway 70 or from Highway 364. You can pop out there and ask for Larry. Larry's the owner, so he'll most likely be there and say, hey, I saw the Superman movie. What have you got Guy Gardner-wise? Or, hey, what are some good Superman stories to recommend? And he's going to give you good stories that you'll end up enjoying. He was recommending stuff to me. He's like, well, did you read this one? I hadn't read a couple of the Superman stories that he suggested. But if you're looking for Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, or maybe some Lois Lane comics, if you want to go back to those 60s stock, he's got all that stuff because he's got back issues galore. New issues come out every Wednesday, and I recommend doing a pull list. That way you don't miss a comic book when it comes out. I've gotten to the comic book store before. We've all had this experience. You get there and like, oh no, they're sold out of Mark Waid's World Finest. But don't fear. If you have a comic book on a pull list, he puts it aside for you, and you've got a new mint copy sitting in the drawer waiting for you to come and do your purchase, even if you can't get there on Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it might be. Join the Avengers Club. That way you start saving money on your weekly pulls, also on your back issues, also on your bags and boards and everything else you might want to buy. So that way in this economy, you're not sacrificing your hobby to save money. You can do both at the same time. Instagram.com/Bugs Comics and Games. Find them on Facebook as well and give the page a like. That'll make Larry very happy if you do. And if you're in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, be sure to go by the store on Bryan Road. Bugs Comics and Games. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. We've got Greg Miller on air with us as well. We're going to go to the phone lines. We're going to go to Cartersville, Georgia, where we have BK on the air, who broadcasts on WBHF. He had me on his show this past Saturday, and I know he enjoyed Superman, I think, more than I did as well. BK, how are you?
Hey, hello there, my radio brother from another mother. What's going on?
How's it going?
It's going great. I actually went to see Superman again today in IMAX.
Oh, okay, yeah. Our press screening was in IMAX, so yeah, did you enjoy it more because of the IMAX setting?
I think I did, and I think I would have enjoyed it more just on a regular screen as well. I saw the regular screen Friday night, but I just wanted to see it again, no matter what the screen was, and IMAX was available, so I went the second time to see it, and I enjoyed it even more today, believe it or not.
Well, see, I'm in the minority. I need to see it again because everyone's telling me that they've seen it several times, and maybe that's what I need to do. To Greg's point, maybe I'll have a drink beforehand before I go in. So
I had a Diet Coke before I went to see it, but I don't think the drinks is what y'all are talking about. But
no,
yeah.
Probably not. No, Diet Coke, the aspartame. Blah. But let everyone know your thoughts. I know Greg and I have broken it down. What were your thoughts on the movie?
I think everyone may be in shock right now that are DC and especially Superman fans, because I don't think this has been done since, I guess, maybe the first Superman film, Superman the movie, 1978, and some would argue that it took liberties with the original story too, a little bit with some things. This is one of the we shifted from Zack Snyder to this. This is like I think what Superman needed right now was a man named James Gunn. He actually returned something to Superman that I think was sorely needed for years now, and that was just a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
To Superman. That's what he put back in there, and I think it's so based in comic book, so reflects actually Superman the animated series to me more than anything else is what it kind of acts like. Everyone's kind of in shock because they're not used to seeing it anymore. But I was watching it like, oh, okay, this is kind of how it's supposed to be. This is great, and I just think all the complaints now that I was talking about with you yesterday on the air they're minor now. I saw it again, and I'm like, the great stuff in this movie outweighed the complaints to me now so much. It's just, I enjoyed it. I think I had a big smile on my face the whole time I was watching it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm certainly going to go back and see it again because I am a fan. I want this movie to do well because I want this universe to continue, and I really want a Guy Gardner movie or at least an HBO special like they did with Peacemaker. So that would be fantastic if Nathan Fillion's up for it.
The rumor was he's going to pop up on Lanterns.
Oh, okay. Well, I would hope so. My gosh, that'd be great if he pops up in there.
I think didn't Nathan Fillion, wasn't he quoted as saying he dropped more F-bombs during the filming of the Lanterns than anything in his history? I think that's what he said. So he may have already filmed some of the scenes in it, I think, already. I'm not sure.
Yeah, very well could be.
I think he said that, yeah. Well, anyway, I'm looking forward to that too. I just think it's a great return. It's doing well too. So if this is the Iron Man to Marvel, because Iron Man launched Marvel's MCU, if this is their anchor film that they're starting with, I think they're starting in a great way, and I loved it. I am a Superman comic book fan of Silver, Bronze, and the 80s, especially the John Byrne Man of Steel stuff when John Byrne rebooted it. That was the best Superman stuff, in my opinion, ever written.
Yeah, I'm just looking at websites right now. CNN has it soaring towards $130 million opening. Variety says it's at 122. New York Times is saying it's a 217 million ticket sales. I'm not sure if that's worldwide factoring in maybe because that's a little higher than the others have it.
Yeah, Box Office Mojo has 217 worldwide.
Okay. All right. Joey V confirms 217 worldwide. But BK, let everyone know before you go, let everyone know you've got a radio show as well. Tell everyone where they can find you and if they want to check out your show.
Well, just like James done here, looks like James does here on the 550 KTRS. You can hear me on AM 1450 and 100.3 FM WBHF, just northwest of Atlanta in Cartersville, Georgia. We have an app you can download to hear us, or you can go to the website, WBHFradio.org, and listen to me live 10 a.m. till noon on Saturdays. I'm kind of like a bookend with James. We're on bookends on the weekend, Saturday, and he's got Sunday. That's right. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it more. And like I said, I feel like I'm being ganged up on. I'm going to go see it again. I promise. I'm going to go see it again.
That's all right. Go see it again. Look up, and away. Talk to you later, dude.
Thank you. Take care, BK. There he goes. Joey V, you said that I think you enjoyed it more than I did too. Am I correct?
Yeah. And you're wrong. You're just plain damn wrong.
All right.
Well, let me tell you a little bit of history here just to get it started. I grew up with the Max Fleischer cartoons. I mean, I'm only 40 years old, but I guess my grandma gave me that tape with the shorts on it, and that's what I watched, and that's what made me love Superman. The bright colors, the fun stories, the serialized version of Superman, and that's why I had the pajamas. And then when I went to go as Superman for Halloween, we had to sew the cape on because it was Velcro. So I couldn't lose the cape during the middle of my trick-or-treating. So this is much closer to any other Superman I've ever seen. I totally, after Man of Steel, sat out all of the Batfleck movies. I did not see any of those. And I don't think I've seen the Richard Donner one. I was watching that this morning, and everything seemed brand. I know it. I mean, no 5 or 6-year-old can sit through that movie. It is so slow. It is so boring. Christopher Reeve doesn't show up for 40 minutes.
Hold on.
My 3.5-year-old has sat through it because I made him. All right, don't say this. Not all kids.
But I'm saying I don't have any memories of the Richard Donner one because I watched it this morning, and everything felt brand new. But I am a Sean Gunn fan, so that right there. And a James Gunn fan also. Maybe I'll say James Gunn. So I'm a big James Gunn fan. I love the way he teams up so many characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. And I didn't know this was going to be such a big team-up movie, and it was. And I loved all of that stuff. So not really caring about coming in with a whole backstory. Oh, my goodness, this Richard Donner movie takes forever to get going. It is ridiculous. So coming in media res, as they say in Latin, in the middle of the story, I love that. Seeing Superman bleeding in the snow, you knew this is a different take. This guy can get hurt, and I love that.
I did appreciate the fact that we didn't have to, much like the recent Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, we didn't have to sit through Uncle Ben's getting killed again by the burglar. I appreciate that it did kind of pop us in, hey, this is already an established thing, just go with us, people. I did enjoy that aspect. I'm not sure if you felt the same way, Greg.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was right there with James Gunn when he's talked about before. Like, we never need to see the last baby being rocketed away. We never need to see the pearls again for Batman. Like, we can just pick this up. This is pop culture at this point.
Right. Yeah, I would 100% agree. Quit trying to check the chats again. Mostly Superheroes says, great convo and takes, guys. Thank you, Mostly Superheroes. Shannon says she saw it in IMAX as well. And Dan Reba, hold on. The Jor-El issue is a big adjustment for me, but I think it works as a point of the film. It's about the choices we make and works perfectly for the message. I do agree. It for the plot, for the purposes of the plot, it made sense. But one of my quibbles, again, was the fact that Superman just saves a bunch of people. They look up on a screen, what? And they start throwing things at him. That was too fast for me. So half the crowd would have been like, wait, this can't be right. I mean, we're very divided as a country right now, so I don't think everyone's going to look up, see, Cat Grant on the news and figure, oh, well, my gosh, this guy who just saved us is evil. So that happened too quickly for me. I think the movie needed more time to breathe on that.
Fair.
So, but yeah, so I guess long and short of it, like I said, you're giving it 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, you said?
Yeah, I think 8. I think I'll go 8.
Okay, Joey V?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Letterboxd, so I've got to go out of a 5-point scale.
Right.
So it is a 4 out of 5. But if I do the math real quick, that is also an 8 out of 10. I do want to say that ever since I was a little kid watching the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie, I've always been sensitive to cuss words in kids' movies. And I loved when they said damn twice in the Ninja Turtles movie. But this one, I counted every single time they did a cuss word. There were 16 curses, including the middle finger that Green Lantern gives to everyone.
Yeah, he gives a lot of those.
There's so many times he uses the S word, and the funniest one is when Superman says he remembers the smell of this guy's pee, but he says the worst one because he threw him across the desert into a cactus. I did enjoy that, but it seemed excessive with how many times they dropped the S word. But I don't mind. I'll take a kid to it. I think they'll have fun.
Yeah, no, I think kids by this time, if they're on TikTok, they've heard those words before anyway, so it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, and again, I think I initially gave it a 3 out of 5. I think I might up it to 3.5 out of 5. But
you're coming around. I'll come back next week. It'll be a 4. That's all I want to see.
Yeah. No, it might be because, like I said, I do want to see it again. My wife didn't get to go to the screening with me. I'm hoping she wants to see it. But tell you what, let me go ahead and take another quick break because I want to come back and we want to talk more about Kind of Funny and about what you're doing there and about the Superman stuff you're doing over there as well on your videos. So let's go ahead and take another quick commercial break. We're going to come right back. We'll talk more with Greg Miller. You'll try to pay attention to the chats. I apologize. I keep scrolling back through and after the fact, and I know, I'm bad at that. We're getting better. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand.
Daredevil jump and keeps on going. There's nothing else like it. Take control of the fastest and only airborne train. The new Super Turbo Train with Daredevil jump from Tyco.
Strawberry shortcakes tickle because she's found. Cause look-alike twins look alike upside down. Strawberry shortcake with custard and lamb and Ada with sugar woofer, each sold separately.
Sugar woofer? How do you tell the twins apart? I sniff them. They both smell lemony. That's why they're called Lem and Ada. But which is which? Dog defino.
New lamb and Ada with sugar woofer. Strawberry shortcake with custard sold separately.
They're here. Zero gravity cliffhangers, cause you race them upside down. Plummeting through the giant loop as you reach for new speeds and use your skill to master the death-defying spiral and blast up the wall to zero gravity. Then turn out the lights and your Ignite Glow. Now make your final move to take the lead and win.
Hey guys, this is a.k.a. a.k.a. Mr. Terrific, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to the show, Geek to Me Radio. Thank you all of you who are in the chat tonight. I appreciate all of you listening. I know a lot of people don't like to do the chats. A lot of people they don't want to call in because we've had people after the fact will call into the radio show. Hey, I didn't want to say this on the air. But that's why we have the text line, 84126. You can text us your thoughts on the movie or anything else you'd like to talk about. Obviously, you can also join us in the chats on the YouTube and Facebook. The voice of Echo Kellum, Mr. Terrific, bringing us back. Not the actor from Superman, the movie, obviously, but I was a big fan. Echo Kellum showed up in Arrow, and when he got the jacket, I was like, oh, it's perfect. It's comic accurate. And I think the Mr. Terrific we got was one of the highlights in this one. Want to make sure we tell you about our premier sponsor very quickly before we get back to the conversation, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You might know the website discoverstcharles.com. When I decided to bring a Comic-Con to our area this year, St. Charles was a no-brainer. It's the historic district. We've got the gorgeous places to host, like the Foundry and the Steel Shop, which are historic buildings. I took pictures of them, put them on Instagram, what they used to look like back in the 40s, and it's just incredible that we've got all this history. And then it's all small businesses. So my wife and I just took Grimlock, our dog, for a walk down there. We went to Sugar and Slice and got some coffees and some macarons. We went to First Capital Trading Post, looked at all their jelly cats that they have. They just got a new shipment of those in. They got the Loungefly purses that you can get. We went into a couple different stores. We almost got some barbecue at Salt and Smoke, but we had to go somewhere else and we didn't have enough time to wait. But the restaurants, the shops, these are all small businesses, and this is so important to support small businesses. So if you haven't been down along North or South Main in St. Charles lately, go on down. Whether you're in Alton, whether you're in Columbia, Missouri, M-I-Z, or whether or not you just haven't been across the bridge lately. Maybe you're in Shrewsbury, maybe you're in Florissant. Go across the bridge. Check out historic St. Charles. We're bringing Two Rivers Comic Con back, by the way, for 2026. It'll be April 25th and 26th. So mark that in your calendars. And yes, it will be in St. Charles, all at the Steel Shop this time, just so you know. But probably the biggest compliment I got was from Dan Reba. Dan, if you're listening, we brought Dan Reba in as one of our people for Comic-Con this year, and he's been on the show so many times. He's heard me give these live reads that I'm doing right now, and I love the fact Dan Reba said, James, you undersold this place. This place is beautiful. Maria Canals-Barrera went out, and she went to the Irish Fest that was happening down in Frontier Park on Sunday afternoon before the con started. Susan said it was gorgeous. So the fact that everyone here loved it. Carl Lumley wants to come back. So that, to me, if those people loved it as much as I do, then that says it all. So check it out. Start your trip at the website, discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Wrapping up the hour. Gosh, this has flown by. We've got Greg Miller talking about Superman and movies.
I also was like, an hour.
It blows by so quickly. But I know you guys are reviewing the Superman stuff on Kind of Funny. Talk a little bit about what you guys have already done and what's coming up.
So yeah, we do a series called In Review over at Kind of Funny. You can get it on podcasts, it's Kind of Funny In Review, or youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. And basically, if you have a favorite movie franchise or a series of movies, we have probably watched all of them one by one. You watch the movie, we come in, we give our thoughts, we recap the entire plot as only we can, and argue about all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so yeah, we are about to wrap up Superman In Review this week. It is so crowded, of course, with Jurassic Park and other things to review this year with stuff. We actually had to do Superman 2025 James Gunn, of course, last week. It was a 3-hour-long in review episode as I went through all the minutia possible. And we are ending with Superman Returns this week to add it in with all the Donner movies. Because, of course, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman is in DC Universe, Extended Universe in review. They're all over there. So we're excited. This has been a dream come true for me, obviously, since we started in review. We started with MCU in review when it was, if somebody put up, oh, man, if you watch every MCU movie once a week from here on out, you'd lead up perfectly to Infinity War. And we were like, oh, so we did that and made an entire series out of it. They got so popular, we then expanded it to other things. So for me, I've always wanted to do these films, so it's been an absolute treat to sit there and talk to an interesting panel where my co-host Nick, he grew up with these movies just like I did. And then Andy and Tim are so young, they never watched them. So they're watching for the first time. I'm getting to explain, Richard Donner versus the Salkins and this and that and the Donner cut. And can you believe there's a Snyder cut? There was also this, and this insanity of it. So it's been a blast, and I'm excited to watch Brandon Routh do it one more time because I haven't seen Superman Returns since my like 9th viewing on DVD in 2007, probably.
Man, yeah, and again, I enjoyed that for what it was. I thought I love the fact that Brandon got another bite at the apple in the Arrowverse. He got to play Kingdom Come Superman. That was fantastic to see him come back. And I really enjoyed Tyler Hoechlin as Superman. Yeah. I thought Bitsy Tulloch did a great job too. If you're a fan of that series, by the way, shout out to Mitch Halleck, who will be on the show with us next week at Terrificon. You can meet Tyler and Bitsy up at Terrificon, which will be fantastic. So if you're a Superman fan, that's going to be a great con to hit August 12th through the 14th, if I remember. No, 10th through the 12th up in Uncasville, Connecticut. For my money, one of the best Comic Cons in the entire country if you're a comic book fan. I'm curious what your initial hopes are for Fantastic Four. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Oh, my God. I don't. We don't even have enough time. Like these trailers have been so good, and it's been that thing where watching the Superman trailers and then Fantastic Four and stuff. As much as I live and die Superman, I look at this and I'm like, this looks like it's going to be a better motion picture. Like I just think everyone loves MCU. Everyone has been in this post Endgame hangover, for lack of a better term, where nothing can live up to that. To finally have comic accurate Galactus, to finally have the Fantastic Four, and you assume at the end to see it all go sideways and then have to hop to our unit. Like these trailers have been so good. I love a good movie that has a tone. Like here is what we are doing. It's one of the reasons I think Superman works so well, and I get excited for the rest of the DCU, where James Gunn's like, every movie's gonna have its own tone. It's gonna be like comics. It doesn't need to all feel like one thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited to see what they're doing with First Steps because it looks fantastic.
And the fact, I mean, because I kept thinking when they first got the rights back, I was like, I would love to see it somehow set in the 60s. And the fact that they're doing that atomic retro look is right there, kind of checked a box for me. So I'm
100%.
And I want to get the Herbie popcorn bucket thing, the AMC. Have you seen the thing they're offering?
Oh, yeah. The popcorn bucket takeover of the world has been ridiculous to watch, but as a man now with like 3 Superman ones, I understand.
Yeah, no, that Herbie one looks fantastic. I know our friend Spike from Toyman Toy Show, he was showing off his Galactus one that he got today, and it looks very cool, so I'm excited for the Herbie one as well. In just the few short minutes we have left, what else are you looking forward to? Because I know we've got some great movies. I'm more excited about Naked Gun than I was initially when it was announced. I think the previews have made it like, okay, I'm kind of down with this now. Initially, I was like, oh, that's sacrosanct. You can't remake that. But I kind of like where they're going.
Yeah, the fact that they are, I didn't think about it either. I was a big fan of the Leslie Nielsen Naked Guns growing up, and so they hold a special place in my heart for what they were. And so to hear they were doing them again, like, oh, really? But then that first trailer did such a great job of, here it is, Liam Neeson, Frank Drebin Jr., and he goes and talks to Leslie Nielsen's photo, and we go down the line, down the line, down the line to get to the O.J. Simpson joke. I was like, you know what? Y'all know what you have, and you're doing it perfectly. And so everything I've seen since then, I'm like, this is a flick I'd love to go see.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Was there any other movies coming up that you think are on your radar of like, oh, everyone check this one out?
For me, it's the opposite where I fell behind. We had a date night, which is very rare with a 3.5-year-old with no family around planned. And then there was a last-minute snafu where I think Ben got sick, my son. And so we canceled it. But we were going to go see 28 Years Later. We are big zombie fans. We love the 28 series. And so we still haven't seen that. So I'm refreshing Amazon all the time of like, is it in there yet? No, it's not in there. Okay, well, when it's there, it can have the $25. I will watch it as soon as I can.
Yeah, and what were your thoughts on Thunderbolts really quickly, too, as we wrap up? Did you like Thunderbolts?
Another one, we're talking about subverting expectations and catching you off guard. That, even though it wasn't a James Gunn flick, it reminded me so much of Guardians, right? Here's this group of people that you may not care about. They were never the star of their own movie, And I would, going in, I had such low expectations that I ended up having such a blast with it and so much fun. And to get to that final scene and the post-credits, I was like, MCU might be back. We might be over it finally. We had started this. We're doing the things people want again.
Yeah. I just wish we could have gotten Mahershala Ali as Blade is my only
oh my God,
downfall with that.
I mean, come on.
I guess as they pointed out, Wesley Snipes himself said there's only ever going to be one Blade. I think he was prognosticating well. If people want to keep up with you more online, I know you're very active on social media. Give out the handles and give everyone the websites once again, please.
Sure. You can find me everywhere as Game Over Greggy. That's Gregggy, 2 G's, Greggy. And of course, you can find Kinda Funny at kindafunny.com. You can go to, if you're a YouTube person, youtube.com/kindafunnygames. If you're a podcast person, Spotify, Apple, etc., pop in Kinda Funny. You'll find all our game shows, but most importantly to this conversation, Kinda Funny in review.
Perfect. Greg Miller, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were able to do this. Thanks for taking the time on a Sunday night, and hopefully we can maybe do it again.
I'd love that, James. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Be well. Take care.
You too.
There he goes. Make sure you check it out. And again, if you're listening to this after the fact, scroll down to the bottom of the page. We'll have links that Greg mentioned in the show notes. We've got just a few seconds left. Do you want anything else you want to add, Joey V, at the last here?
The product placement in Superman was terrible because they had Toyota in there. That's not an American brand. And I hate Toyota Racing Development. That's on the side of these cars, and it spells turd. TRD is on the side of these cars, and I did not appreciate the close-up of that turd in the Superman movie twice.
Well, there you go. I hadn't caught that, but I did. You pointed out you Stag Industries and things like that. And Wade Avenue, WAID. Mark Wade got his shout out with Wade Avenue, so I did enjoy that as well.
Mm-hmm. And then there is a Milk-Bone product placement, which is not a bad thing because all dogs are good, and I love dogs.
Correct. Everyone loves dogs. We all love dogs. Go adopt a dog. Go find your own crypto. Thank you to the sponsors, once again, Bugs Comics and Games and the City of St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Discover St. Charles. Thank you to Greg Miller for taking the time tonight. Thank you for all of you in the chat. Thank you for BK on the Air for calling in. Thank you to Joey V, who always makes the show sound and look as good as it does. I wouldn't be doing this without him sitting right across the board. And join us next week. Mitch Halleck from Terrific Con comes on. I'll have my interview with Kimberly Sustad talking about the Hallmark series Christmas at Sea, plus a few other surprises. All that and more. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Metropolis. Good night.
From ABC